it wide open and build up my claim. Send a hit at this so we can beat the jank. You know how it is, want everything for myself, want everything going from me, nobody else. I'm a dog, it ain't no secret, I want it all. And the fancy calls, the game is cool, but it's fair. Can't trust no man, cause I don't care. I'll do anything just to be the man with all the work. Kidnap your wife and your daughter, erase you off the earth. Just cutthroat this real cousin. Better know the game, if you don't, you get killed, cousin. Be ready to take the wall behind yours. Walk when it get dark and leave on the curb. Watch the locking us, baller blocking us. You keep trying, ain't no stopping us. While you blocking us, baller blocking us. You keep trying, ain't no stopping us.
Thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.
Hey, what's going on? Who That Nation? It is yours truly, Timothy J. Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Shouts out to everybody in the chat. Shouts out to everybody listening, no matter where you are, wherever you may be. On this edition, we're going to be talking about Saints interim coach Darren Rizzi. And we're going to be talking about what would it take for him to take over as the Saints head coach permanently. We're also going to be talking about a little bit of the Cleveland Browns, New Orleans Saints matchup that's going to take place this weekend. The Cleveland Browns coming off a bye week. They lost their last game, but this is Jameis Winston returning to the Superdome. How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts on Jameis Winston, of course? But always put your comments in the chat. Shouts out to everybody here. Very interactive podcast if you're new to the channel. So hopefully by the end of this episode, if you're on the fence about subscribing, hopefully all doubt will be erased after you realize how lit it be over here on the State of the Saints podcast. Shouts out to everybody that is not here right now. Probably going to check this show out when it's all said and done. Shouts out to them after show.
Shouts out, shouts out, shouts out, shouts out, shouts out to them after show boys. Shouts out, shouts out, shouts out, shouts out, shouts out to them after show boys. They be tweeting and be posting, they be tweeting and be posting, they be tweeting. Yeah, them after show boys. They be tweeting and be posting, they be tweeting and be posting, they be tweeting. Yeah, them after show boys.
Shouts out to all the after show boys, after show girls out there. Thank you very much. But let's go ahead and get into it, man. First off, I got these shades on, man, because I'm pretty sure they're going to have some haters up in here, man, and some big haters. So that's why I wore big shades, all right? Because I got my hater blockers on. Probably got some out here that's probably upset. Man, y'all 3-7. Man, y'all 3-7. The Saints knocked off the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 20-17. Remember that. No matter what happened this season, the Saints knocked off the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 20-17. All right. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it, man. Talk about Darren Rizzi. Darren Rizzi has hit the NFL world by storm. He is a walking, talking soundbite. Every national syndicated sports radio station in the country wants a piece of Darren Rizzi. I was listening to Jim Rome as I was traveling to pick Paxton up from school. He was talking about Darren Rizzi and his story about clogging up the toilet from, him, losing the feeling in his arm, falling, almost flailing all over Peyton Turner. I mean, also he was on a Pat McAfee show on today. So right now, Darren Rizzi is on cloud nine and he's looking like a rock star. But one thing I like about Darren Rizzi, one thing I appreciate about Darren Rizzi is he understands the people of New Orleans. Like he is a guy rather it works out or not, I think that people in New Orleans will have an appreciation for Darren Rizzi. I think if things go the right way, he will end up like being one of those coaches. Like, let's just say if he's like really good at what he's doing right now and they give it to him permanently, he would be one of them coaches like people will want to jump the guardrail for, like he's that type of guy because he's so passionate, he's so fiery, and it's something that we've been missing over the last 2.5 years, man. And he's unapologetically himself, which I think that's what people love about the Riz. But Riz got one more win, and your boy getting the song. I'm just gonna say that. Darren Rizzi got one more win. If he wins against the Cleveland Browns this weekend, your boy getting the song. That's all I'm going to say. But I just like the feeling that he's given the Who Dat Nation. I think that the fact that he beat the Atlanta Falcons and the Saints beat the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 20-17, I think and I believe that kind of helped him hit the ground running. I think people would have been happy if he would have just won a football game, but the fact that it actually happened to the Falcons and the magnitude of the game, the fact that the Falcons were a really good football team, they were leading the division, they haven't lost a game in the division yet, and the Saints were the first team to do that, on top of having him as a fiery interim coach, I think that it helped. But I'm not ready yet to say that he should be the head coach permanently. I know that there are some scenarios out there that are saying that maybe the Saints may need to take a look at this because of how he makes the players feel, the energy that he injected into the locker room. But to me, I feel like you need a little bit more than just some energy. Like, I feel like that was maybe something that helped going into the game versus the Atlanta Falcons. The reason why you end up knocking off the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 20-17. But going forward, will energy be enough? Right? I mean, how are you going to be able to constantly challenge these players? How are you going to be able to continue to keep them motivated, to be able to get them out of this hole? That is my question. But if he ends up winning, I think they got 7 games left, if I'm not mistaken. But if he can win like 5 out of the next 7, I think that he will make a strong case for himself. If they go and run the table, then he definitely going to be the head coach next year. I don't think there would be a doubt about it. But regardless of how things pan out, I still feel like these games should not just be the deciding factor for the New Orleans Saints making Darren Rizzi the head coach if it pans out. You want to make sure that you find the right guy because you don't want to make the mistake of, just fall in love with what is right now and right in front of you and not taking into account maybe, things will be different a little bit next year and you're going to need a different voice inside of the locker room. So I still would be doing my due diligence all the while keeping an eye on what Darren Rizzi is doing as an interim head coach. The guys love him. I think the Saints fans, they're starting to fall in love with him. But I'm telling you, if they can win some games with Darren Rizzi, regardless of if he ends up being a head coach permanently or not for the New Orleans Saints, I think that Darren Rizzi would be one of those guys where a sandwich is named after him. A float on in Mardi Gras probably going to be named after him. He will have that type of stardom in New Orleans. We all know, man, when somebody does something for the city, it can be something big or small. People within the New Orleans community, the Gulf Coast region, like they just forever indebted to what you do. I mean, there's a reason why, some of these Saints players that haven't played in years can go to New Orleans and they probably don't even have to pay for anything. It's the respect level that they have. And Darren Rizzi, if he win a few games, I think he's going to fall into that category. But I like the leadership. I like the energy. I like the fire once again. But will that be enough going forward? I'm very concerned at what I've seen in the second half of the New Orleans Saints Atlanta Falcons game. I looked at the first half. It looked like everything was clicking on all cylinders. Second half, it looked like they got away from some things once the Atlanta Falcons made the adjustments. Luckily for the New Orleans Saints, they still managed to knock off the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 20-17. But if you don't make the necessary halftime adjustments, you can find yourself not winning these football games. So I need Clint Kubiak to step it up. I didn't see too much of Taysom Hill in the second half. I think that you should have utilized Taysom Hill just a little bit more. Now, I know there was a debate a few weeks ago being too Taysom dependent because it seemed like Taysom Hill, once he left, the offense left with him. But you still want to be able to use Taysom. And I'm just wondering, they didn't come out and say this, but I'm wondering if Taysom Hill may be on a snap count. Maybe he's still dealing with the rib injury. Maybe he's still dealing with some injuries, but he's still trying to go out there and give it his all. If he's on like a little bit of a snap count, then I would understand, why they didn't put him out there in the game versus the Atlanta Falcons. But luckily for the New Orleans Saints, despite the fact of really utilizing Taysom Hill in the second half, they still managed to knock off the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 20-17. So you're going into a game versus the Cleveland Browns, and the Cleveland Browns are terrible. They're 2-7. Saints are 3-7. Probably would be 3-7 or 2-8 if they actually had a game last week. They actually had a bye. And we know that Jameis Winston is the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Jameis Winston getting an opportunity to be the starting quarterback. He had that he was a part of that upset victory over the Baltimore Ravens, where he threw 3 touchdowns and a touchdown in the final seconds of the game. But he kind of came back down to earth the following week against the Chargers when he only threw 1 touchdown and he had 3 interceptions. So all in all, Jameis Winston, we know what he is, man. There's some games where he can light it up. He'll go for like 3 or 4 touchdowns, and then the next week he'll have 3 or 4 interceptions. But we still love him because he was a heck of a teammate, a heck of a personality. And, I don't think too many people really dislike Jameis Winston. But I think that he's going to come in with something to prove, despite the fact that the Saints no longer have Dennis Allen in his eyes, where he can go and stick it to him. I still feel like maybe he looks at this organization with the New Orleans Saints. You had an opportunity to bet on me, and you didn't. You decided to ride with Dennis Allen with his no coaching tail, and you kind of kicked me to the curb. And maybe he has that type of motivation to go in there to show you that you wasted your money on Derek Carr. The fact that you gave him $150 million when you probably could have got me much cheaper and probably would have had up the same level of production. If you be honest, to be honest with you, maybe he's thinking like that. But all in all, I think he's going to be motivated to play this game. The running game of the Cleveland Browns, they got Nick Chubb back. Everybody knows he came back from that devastating knee injury. They also have Ford out there, his backup running back. He has been providing a little bit of a spark. They still got some talented pass catchers out there, man, some young guys that can still get it. David Njoku is a really good tight end, has a little bit of the drops, but when he's motivated and he's out there dialed in, he can make some plays. And not to mention the defensive side of the football, man. I mean, they got Denzel Ward, still one of the best young corners in the game. You got Myles Garrett, one of the best pass rush in the game. They still got a formidable defense. So it's not going to be an easy game for the New Orleans Saints. They're going to have to come and be prepared. And Clint Kubiak has got to be able to use all the weapons that is in his disposal. You can't just have something working in the first half and just get away from it in the second half. Or you just can't become stagnant and trying to sit on a lead. Like, you got to be aggressive. So I hope that his play calling becomes aggressive towards the end of the game. And people have been telling me and writing on social media, they'll say stuff like, well, TJ, hey, man, he did dial up that play with Alvin Kamara. It don't matter, man. Like, we have a tendency of trying to sweep things under the rug when it works in our favor. Like, we win, so we're not worried about the things that could have happened. For example, with the Dallas Cowboys, right? There was a play where CeeDee Lamb broke off, against the defenders. I think at the time it was Paulson Adebo and Tyrann Mathieu, and he scored like a 60-some-odd yard touchdown. And everybody kind of swept it under the rug, like, they really don't matter, man. We dominated them. But as we went into the season, we noticed that the Saints have had issues tackling, getting guys on the ground. Some of the times where, they were actually, were able to stop the run, they couldn't do it anymore. To me personally, I think that them not being able to stop the run has a lot to do with the fact that maybe Cam Jordan isn't really playing as much. Like, we know that he's older, but he was really good at run stopping. And I think the fact that he's not on the field, you got Carl Granderson and Chase Young. These guys are more focused mostly on like trying to get to the quarterback more so than actually trying to stop the run. Not to say that they can't, but they're just not on that level when it comes to stopping a run like Cam Jordan was in his prime. But I think it's going to be a very good game. I think that both teams are going to come in trying to win. Every time the Saints play the Browns is always an exciting game. I want to say that last time they played, I don't know if that was Tyrod. Maybe it was Tyrod Taylor. He threw that dime down the field to Callaway in the back of the end zone. I mean, it was a moon ball, but it was like one of the best deep balls I've seen in a hot minute right there. It's always an exciting game every time the Saints play the Browns. I mean, we know about that frozen game where it was the Taysom Hill game where they just basically ran the football with Taysom Hill in the snow. I think the game was like -4 degrees or something like that out there. I mean, some classic, winter football. But it's always an exciting game when the Saints play against the Cleveland Browns, and I don't think this game will be an exception. But I do want to mention before I go to the comments to find folks at BETUS. Sign up today, get up to 150% on your first deposit, up to 125% on your second and third deposit, up to $2,000. Download the BETUS app and also use the promo code YouTube150. But let's go ahead and read some of your comments in the chat here. We'll start with, I don't trust Mickey in that process. Dude is a lazy, delusional general manager. Yeah, man, I don't know, man. I don't know what it is about Mickey. Mickey, to me, is so disconnected from the fans. Like I was kind of listening to a little bit of the snippet of him being on WWL on Tuesday. If you're actually watching this live, we're doing this on a Tuesday. But I was listening to him, and he was talking about Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and he basically said, well, I know they had a lot of Saints fans that didn't know who Marquez Valdes-Scantling was, but they know now. And that's not true. I mean, who don't know who Marquez Valdes-Scantling is? Marquez Valdes-Scantling has played for one of the most polarizing teams in the National Football League. He has 2 Super Bowls. You know how many Kansas City Chiefs games come on television? This by a show of hands. Like, now just put a finger or something like that in the chat. Who did not know who Marquez Valdes-Scantling was? Who didn't know who he was? Like, just go ahead. If you let me know if you knew who Marquez Valdes-Scantling was. But it's just stuff like that. Like, to me, there's such a huge disconnect between him and the fans. That's why I say I just wonder to myself, and I'm just saying, like, what type of relationship does Mickey Loomis have with the fans? To me, I just feel like it always seems like, I don't know, man. It don't seem like it's one of those general managers that wants to give the people what they want. It's like he's going to do what he wants, and you got to accept it. Like I don't think it works like that, man. Like, to me, trying to make Dennis Allen work when he know that everybody was kind of checked out, fans were checked out, players were checked out, but it just seemed like he just so stubborn, wanted to do what he wanted to do. He kind of reminds me of Vince McMahon in that regard. Like, Vince McMahon, like, would just shove like different talent, WWE talent, down the throats of the fans. They'll say, man, we don't want that. We want something else. It really doesn't matter. It seems like almost like he feels like the Saints should be playing to an audience of one, and that's him. And I feel like that's concerning. I don't think he really understands the fan base. I don't really feel like he likes the fan base, because it doesn't seem like he goes out his way to like, be engaging with the fans. Like, I just don't understand it. Like, in the fact that Gail Benson had to jump in when she normally just kind of, plays the background, because he's just so like stubborn. Like, it's unbelievable to me. But I'm just wondering, I'm like, nobody knew who Valdes-Scantling was. Everybody here, for the most part, when the Saints signed Valdes-Scantling, what was the first thing that came through your mind? Let him play, right? They signed him. And I want to say maybe they signed him like this time a couple weeks ago, right? They signed him, get him through a physical, and they make him a healthy scratch against the Carolina Panthers. Now, Valdez-Scantling, as soon as he signed on the dotted line, became your second best receiver, next to Chris Olave. But you rather go out there with Mason Tipton, go out there with some of these unproven guys, undrafted guys who honestly just showed that they basically, not ready for the moment. I think they got talent, but they're not giving you what you want. Darren Rizzi comes in 1 week. We're going to let Valdez-Scantling play. We're going to let Dante Pettis play. We're going to let Kevin Austin play. And all of those gentlemen made significant, impactful plays at the wide receiver position. The fact that he thinks that most Saints fans don't know who Valdez-Scantling is really tells you what he really feels about the fans and the disconnect that he has. Because Saints fans that I've been, talking with have been said, even when they signed, it was like, man, is Valdez-Scantling playing this week? It's like, because they were ready for him to play. So I don't know exactly what the heck he was talking about. Let me scroll down a little bit. Let's see. We're going to go with Rico. Rico says, I feel like he just doesn't trust Carr to make plays. I guess we're talking about Clint Kubiak, all right? We're talking about Clint. Here's the thing about Clint Kubiak. I don't know if he I don't think it has anything to do with Derek Carr and not trusting Derek. I think that he trusts Derek. I just don't think that he's really good at making these adjustments. He doesn't strike me as a person that is really good at making these adjustments. I think he's a good play caller. Like getting together a plan to start the game, he's really good. But when it comes to making those adjustments, like when teams go to halftime and make those adjustments, he has a hard time. He has that keep doing what you're doing type mentality, man. And I just think that luckily for the New Orleans Saints, they had a lead and they were able to maintain that lead. But he has to work on his halftime adjustments to me, man. I think that if he does that, then I think the Saints can have a dynamic offense. But until he makes those adjustments, they're going to continue to be stagnant in the second half. And they got a good defense. Yeah, Cleveland has a good defense. They really do. Don't trust Carr against Winston and the Cleveland defense. And Njoku is underrated. Problem, he is injury prone. Yeah, he may be. I don't want to say he's underrated. Well, I don't want to say. Yeah, I think he's. I don't think he's underrated. I think that he gets the respect that he deserves, Dalton. But I think he drops a lot of passes. I think that sometimes he lacks motivation at times, but when he's on, man, he's on, we definitely going to need to address that in the draft, because if you notice, whenever Carr starts just getting rid of the ball early in the play, Kubiak goes straight to the run. Yeah, I mean, but I feel like what's going to help is, well, I don't know if some of you know, but I'm pretty sure most of you do. Connor McGovern was waived by the New Orleans Saints, and that indicates that more than likely Eric McCoy will be back this week versus the Cleveland Browns. Might be a tad bit rusty, but still, a rusty Eric McCoy is better than anything that you're going to have at the center position and still the best player on the offensive line. So adding Eric McCoy back to the fold, I think is going to help out Derek Carr. It's going to help out the running game. So I think that maybe that will be able to maybe help the New Orleans Saints offensively, but they get away from things that work. And like even with Valdez-Scantling, right? Now I get it. The Atlanta Falcons, they had AJ Terrell like basically shadowing Marquez Valdez-Scantling in the second half, and they were able to kind of neutralize and shut down the run. But it was because everybody kind of knew what the New Orleans Saints were going to do. I want to say every time they got the ball, every time they got possession, first down, they ran the football. And I just think that when you fall into this mode where you're basically doing the same thing, like teams catch on to that. And they were able to neutralize the Saints. You don't go anywhere on first down. So second down is still like, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10. And now you're finding yourself still behind the 8-ball because you didn't gain any plays. Gain any yards, I should say. Second down, if you ran a football on first down, you want to be at least in a 2nd and 6, right? run the football again. You want to be at least in a 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 2. But the New Orleans Saints were getting stonewalled. And I just think that Clint Kubiak has got to be able to make those necessary adjustments. I get it. You trust the process. You trust your team. You trust the running game. But you got to come up with creative ways in order to try to get a positive yardage. If you don't, then, you're going to find yourself losing these football games because luckily, once again, the Saints were able to go into halftime with a 10-point lead over the Atlanta Falcons, 17-7. And, you were able to kind of hold on to that lead. But what happens in those phone booth games, or if you're not winning going into the half, are you going to be able to make those adjustments to get your team back into the game? I haven't seen that from Clint Kubiak. It just seems like if the Saints, don't have a lead or they're down, they go into the second half, they can't do anything at all. Even the game when they played against Tampa, I mean, they scored 27 points in the first half or something like that. And after that, I don't think they scored a point. So you got to be able to work on those adjustments. TJ, they knew and know who Scantling is. They just forgot about his speed and skill set. Yeah, I think so too. He thinks he can fool the fan base. I don't know if he thinks he can fool the fan base. I think at this point, people kind of on to Mickey Loomis, and I think he understands that. But I don't feel like he really. I don't really think that he takes the consideration that is necessary. When it comes to like being in that position, like your position as a general manager is to put a product on the field that people will pay their hard-earned money to see and to be able to get behind. But to me, it's like he gets mad and gets offended and wants to criticize everybody when people criticize him, justifiably so. Like, you deserve to be criticized, my guy. I mean, you look horrible. And then, the fact that you went on WWL last week and basically said it was the injuries is the reason why the Saints were on this losing streak. And then all of a sudden the next week, you fire Dennis Allen and the Saints get a win with their interim coach. Like, if the Saints start winning football games going forward, it makes them look ridiculous. I'm sorry, it does. Because there's no way in the world I would have jumped out the window. Like, you can really tell, like, through the way that he was talking, the way that, that he sounds, it seemed like he was really upset that Gail Benson, basically pulled the rug from underneath him like that, right? It seemed like, it's like if you have a child, right? And you go into a store and your child has this toy in his hand, right? And he walks around the aisle, or she walks around the aisle with the toy, and then finally you get to the checkout stand, and that's the moment of truth, right? The moment of truth. Everybody had been there when they was even when you was a kid. It was the moment of truth. Will my mom, will my dad put this on a conveyor belt and I can take it home with me? And they turn around, they look at you and be like, no, you can put that back. And all of a sudden, like, you just upset and mad. That's the way it was with him. Like, he wanted Dennis Allen to work so bad. And Mama Gail went up to him and said, no, you can't take the Dennis out the store with you. And he got mad. But that's how I felt, man. But now it's like, you have no choice but to concede if this guy continues to win, that, they didn't want to play for him. So that's why I feel like you shouldn't have went out on a limb. You should have maybe thought about something different. But that's what happens when when you're disconnected from the fan base. And basically, I don't feel like you tuck your head outside the window from time to time enough. I trust our defense against Jameis. Jameis makes too many mistakes, man. Yeah, he makes a lot of mistakes. You just got to be prepared to take advantage of him. He's going to throw you a mistake. He's going to throw you a mistake, man. You just got to be ready to catch it. Like Dak Prescott. Dak is, I don't care how well Dak play, there's going to be at least one or two plays in a game. Dak Prescott going to throw you something, right? I mean, I call Dak Prescott the Mardi Gras float. He going to throw something to you. You just got to be able to catch it. Don't have your head now. Hit you in the face. Like, just make sure that you're looking. Like, hey, throw me something. He gonna throw you something. That boy is the Mardi Gras float, man. He's a Mardi Gras float. They're going to throw you something. Dennis should have been gone last year. I agree. And a lot of players thought that he was when Mickey Loomis called that meeting. Everybody like, man, this is it. This is the moment. This is it, man. Now we're going a different direction. He walks up in there and says, get in line or you're out of here. Get behind Dennis or else. Dude's like, what? Let's see. I'm late, but what's up? Who that nation? Addison, thank you for being here. Appreciate that. Says he won't say it out loud, but Mickey is bitter with let me see, GB for stepping, Gail Benson, I assume, for stepping in. So all his words are from an angry place. Yeah, he angry. He mad. He feel emasculated, embarrassed because, you know, he wants to act as if he had everything under control and he didn't. Like sticking around with this guy wasn't going to benefit you at all. I guess maybe from a draft pick standpoint, and maybe guys feel like all hope was lost, but you honestly would really have an issue. Like you would have an issue with the players going forward. Like you really would have to revamp that entire locker room because everybody's like going to start looking at you. Everybody's going to start looking at you because they feel like you're not doing what's for the best betterment of the team. You're doing this to try to save your behind and trying to save face. And players are going to catch on to that type of stuff. So he wouldn't have did himself like any favors. Even if at the end of the season he would have fired Dennis Allen, players would have still been looking like, man, you made us suffer all season for something that you should have did earlier. So it really wouldn't have mattered because those guys didn't want to play for him. The fact that, to me, Gail Benson kind of saved his reputation among those players because she stepped in with her group and said enough is enough. But if he would have kept on like bringing this dude out here and these guys are losing game after game, morale is low, guys are ticked off. But when like I feel like the players forced their hand as well because after that Carolina game, you seen guys, man, they just didn't care. Like they were on social media talking about how trash the team was, and how embarrassing it was to lose to Carolina. Like that kind of stuff doesn't happen with football teams. Like people, really, opening up that fourth wall for the entire world to see. A lot of the things that we have these talking points about are all speculative. There are things that we just feel in our gut that are happening. But to actually see it in real time, that guys were ticked off and tired of Dennis Allen as their head coach, it spoke volumes. And it would have done anything for Mickey Loomis as a GM if he would have kept him on, because that would have really made those players mad and upset. And going forward, it probably would have been hard for the New Orleans Saints to be able to acquire like free agents and stuff like that after you see these type of practices. Like, man, y'all went through all this because this guy didn't want to fire a coach. Like, I don't know about that, man. So it kind of affects the way that maybe a free agent acquisition that could possibly be yours look at your football team. So Gail Benson kind of saved them from himself. I don't care about hanging your hat on the 2009 championship, thinking you done something that's no one has not done. That's being way too complacent. Look, I think that he looks at himself as the team builder. He looks at himself as the guy that basically brought everything together. But to me, I just look at Mickey Loomis as a guy who we're seeing now that he's not that good of a general manager. It was the fact that you had, it's just a good combination of coach and quarterback throughout the years that made you look better than what you actually were. But to me, I don't look at Mickey Loomis as a guy that is really good at what he does. I think that he needs to step down. I think that he needs to bring some new blood in here. I think that he's truly he runs the Saints football operations on emotion, and I don't feel like you should just do that. Like you shouldn't like feel like you're the smartest guy in the room and nobody should question you because you were part of the staff that brought the Saints their only Super Bowl. Like, so what? What have you done for me lately? Is what Bobby Abel normally would say. What have you done? Like, you've done absolutely nothing but mess up the salary cap, bring in $150 million quarterback that you really didn't need, start kicking a can down the road and causing Saints fans hardship because now you hired a coach that set the organization back even further. Because now you just wasted 2.5 years of everybody's life trying to make somebody that you probably look at as a bosom buddy a head coach when he is just not fit for the role. Like, to me, like, not only like you got finesse. You got finesse twice. You got finesse by Sean Payton for him recommending Dennis Allen, and you accepted that. And then on top of that, you kept doubling and tripling down on Dennis Allen. So to me, you look ridiculous. Like, that was, in my opinion, that was the craziest thing I ever heard. Like, I used it for an example. It's like somebody breaks up with you, right? Like, you like them, and y'all supposed to be in love and stuff like that, and they just come to you and say, look here, this ain't working out for me. Okay, I know you're in love with me, and I love you too, but not like that. All right, I'm not like that. But I tell you what, I know you love me, and I know you appreciate me, but guess what? To make you feel better about the loss of me, I'm going to give you the phone number of this guy or this girl, whatever, whatever. And you give them a call. I guarantee you they're going to be what you need them to be. I mean, they're going to make you just not think about me anymore. That's kind of like, you hear how crazy that sounds? That's what the situation was. Sean Payton said, I don't want you anymore. But before I leave, I'm going to show you somebody that could replace me. Now, think about this. Think about this, Who That Nation. Think about this for a second. Think about this for a second. Who is one of the most petty individuals that you ever seen coaching a football team? That would be Sean Payton. I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility. I'm just being honest. I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility that Sean Payton recommended Dennis Allen because he knew Dennis Allen was probably going to fail as a head coach. That would not surprise me at all. It would not be. It wouldn't surprise me at all, man. And maybe he felt like around the time, and it's working out for him right now because he has a really good defensive coordinator. But it wouldn't surprise me if you're like, okay, it probably ain't gonna work out, and if it doesn't, then he can come be a part of my staff. It wouldn't he's that cerebral. I would not put it past Sean Payton. I know right now there's a conspiracy theory, but I look, the ego that guy has. Like, why would you want to recommend a guy to replace you that you know will do better than you? Rather you love an organization or not. So to me, that was the first mistake by Mickey Loomis. The second mistake was actually giving him the job and letting him keep it as long as he did, after he showed you that he wasn't really that good and he wasn't a leader of men. But I digress. I don't think Gail is done. I feel like in the offseason, she is going to make more changes, starting with stripping Mickey of the GM role, especially for still being insubordinate to this day. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's time for Mickey to go. Time for Mickey to step down. It's time for old Mickey to stay up there on that executive floor and allow some of these young guys to maybe come in. Man, they got a lot of really good, promising general managers out there, man, and from other organizations that are just looking for the opportunity. I think about the Rams. I was watching the game last night, Miami versus the Rams, and they were talking about all of the. I'll get to you, Kendall, in a second, but they were talking about all of the draft picks, the late round draft picks that Los Angeles has had, the Puka Nakuas, the Kyron Williams, Cooper Kupp, like all of these different guys they got in late rounds, and they had to do their due diligence. Why? Because for a good, I say about a number of years, the Rams didn't have a first round pick, and they still managed to find key pieces to their football team. Maybe look at a Rams executive that's a part of that a part of that front office. Maybe look at the Green Bay Packers. They draft really well. The Baltimore Ravens. Like, get all of these other guys out of here, like Jeff Ireland and his scout team. Get them out of here. Get them out. Like, move on from this. Like, obviously, over the years, it ain't working. You can't say, oh, man, he gave you 2017. I said that again. Ricky Martin gave us Living La Vida Loca. Sir Mix-a-Lot gave us Baby Got Back. Lou Vega gave us Mambo number 5. But what the hell did they give us after that? Nothing. One hit wonders. And that is what Jeff Ireland is to me. He is Mambo number 5. He is Living La Vida Loca. He is Baby Got Back. A one-hit wonder that they are still trying to tell us that he knows what he's doing. Getting one and two guys in a draft that can actually be serviceable on your special teams is not moving a needle for me. And I'm pretty sure it's not moving a needle for you either. So try to get these guys up out of here and try to find some young, innovative guys full of energy that resemble that of a Darren Rizzi that will go to these schools and really do their due diligence and come together with a high percent of draft picks each class that can be a contributor to your team and not just on special teams. You got a second round pick in Isaiah Foskey, and I promise you, I couldn't tell you if he was on the field or not. Peyton Turner, he had his best game as a pro against the Atlanta Falcons on Sunday when the Saints knocked off the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 20-17. But outside of that, like, missing in action. Like, so to me, you got to be able to find those gems in those later rounds, in the early rounds, not just finding guys. Oh man, this guy is such a great guy. He was a four-time team captain. He like I said, he rescued a cat from a tree. He ran into a burning building. Like, all that stuff is great, right? Great human being, but can he play football? Can he play football? That's all I want to know. But too many politician type players for me. Like, it's good to have leadership qualities, but you want some dogs too. Man. Let me see. Let me go back. I don't know if okay, here we go. Kendall says, TJ, how many games do the Saints have to win for Rizzy to be the future head coach? To me, they got 7 games left. He's won one of those games. He's had 8 games. He won 1. So I would say maybe out of these 7 games, if he wins like 5 out of the 7, if he wins 5 out of 7, I think that you have to give it to him. Or 5 out of 8 rather. So if he wins like 5 games, I think they're going to take him into consideration. If he runs the table, then he definitely going to get it. Like, that's the only way I feel like they'll definitely give it to him. If he just goes out there and just runs the table, then I feel like, then you got something. TJ, I just don't understand GMs like Jerry Jones and with Jimmy, rest in peace, Al Davis and Marcus Allen, and now our very own Mickey Loomis wanting all the credit instead of just being happy with the winning ego. Well, that's the thing, man. I mean, that just I don't know, man. I ain't never been rich. I ain't never had a whole bunch of money. I ain't never been in a an executive role where my office just looks over the entire city. But I just know that you have to have your ego in check. And I just feel like when it comes to Mickey Loomis, he's one of those guys that is kind of arrogant, and I think his arrogance is going to be the demise of the football team because he is very. It seems like he's very competitive. He has a little bit of a bulldog spirit. He has a little bit of a spiteful spirit in some cases. Like, and I'm only just going by like the conversation. I ain't never met Mickey Loomis a day in my life, but it just seems to me like the way that he talks and the way that he responds to people is like I'm giving you my time. Like, I don't have to be here. Like, y'all should be okay. Y'all should be happy that I'm in the building. That's the vibe I get from him. And it's like when he answers the question, it's like, how dare you ask me a question at all? And he kind of makes people like it. If you didn't have these media people that was like kind of thick skinned, like I think they would feel insulted by the way that he comes at them at times. Like, makes them feel like, kind of belittles them, makes them feel less than. makes them feel like the things that they write and say don't have validity, even though everybody and their mama sees that the things that they're writing has validity. It's like to him, I don't know, man. If you ever seen like Head of State with Chris Rock, right? It was a movie with Chris Rock. He played the alderman in Washington, D.C., and he was handpicked to run for president of the United States. But he went up against this guy, right? And he ended up like, getting into the race because one of the guys that was supposed to run for president, he ended up dying in a plane crash. So the guy that was running against Chris Rock, his campaign manager came to him and said, he was looking in the paper. He said, "Who's Mace Gilliam?" He was like, "The guy that you're running against." He was like, "What happened to the other guy?" He was like, "He died in a plane crash." She's like, "When?" He's like, "Didn't you read the news?" He was like, "Not my news." My thing is, it's like he lives in his world, like it's not his news, it's not his reality. His reality is Dennis Allen is the next Bill Belichick, and these players are playing for him. Like I said, there's a strong disconnect between Mickey Loomis in the city of New Orleans and those players to me. And I think that every time he goes on WWL radio, it becomes more and more noticeable. And he doesn't realize how ridiculous he looks. And I'm not saying this to disrespect him at all, but I'm just telling the truth. He looks ridiculous talking on WWL radio every single week and creating this alternative universe that nobody else seems to be living in but him. And that's dangerous to me. When you got a guy out there that's like, I know what I'm doing. I don't need any help from anybody. Like, oh, this is ridiculous what y'all talking about. No, don't be ridiculous. This isn't happening. And everybody like, dude, how about tucking your head out the window and seeing that Colin Sanders up here saying, man, even I can play quarterback better. Or Cam Jordan up here, crashing out on social media saying, man, I can't believe we lost to the Panthers. And you still sitting up here about to drag Dennis Allen out here the next week, looking befuddled, disheveled, and disoriented, and having us sit up here like we about to walk into Gertrude Geddes. Like it's bad, man. It was bad. I mean, it's been a long time since I looked at a press conference. Since I looked at a press conference, and I'm like, man, I wish he would have said some more. Darren Rizzi, the last press conference he had, he talked for 24 minutes. And it's like, man, I could listen to this dude talk another 20. The energy that he comes with, the confidence that he comes with. He may not have all the answers, and this may not even work out. But the fact that you feel like you have somebody that you actually believe in, and I feel like believes in those players, it makes you invest in them. Versus Dennis Allen, like I said, that just sounds like you about to go and bury the close of kin. It's pretty bad. It was pretty bad, man. And I honestly, and I know people are like, man, you shouldn't feel bad about a guy losing his job. I feel bad about a person losing their job if I feel like they actually were doing the job. Dennis Allen was terrible. Let's just call it for what it is. He was a terrible head coach, and it seemed like the decisions that he was making was killing the team, morale, their confidence, and he needed to go. And I'm glad he's going. I really am, man. I ain't sugarcoating it. I'm glad Dennis Allen is going. That's the best news. When I was at Great Wolf Lodge with my family, right? And we was at an indoor water park, and I'm just sitting up there, and I got the news. Shouts out to Chosen, was the first person that actually sent me something. But I was there. I'm like, man, they did it. And I promise you, man, that was like for the exception of marrying my beautiful wife and having my son. That was one of the best moments of my life right there. Watching the headline go across my phone that this dude was going, because this dude just completely evaporated all the energy out of New Orleans. Like it was bad, man. It was bad, and I'm glad dude gone. Now we can move on. Like I said, I don't know what Rizzy gonna do. I don't know if they're gonna go in another direction, but I guarantee you, whatever coach they get will be better than what they had in Dennis Allen. Let's see. So we lost 7 games in a row with the same injuries, and he was all on the radio blaming it all on injuries, and we won the first game without Dennis Allen with the same injuries, Loomis crickets. Yeah, you ain't got nothing to say because, like I said, if the Saints end up going on a little bit of a run here, he won't have a leg to stand on. But I do want to mention once again the fine folks at BetUS. Make sure that you go to BetUS for those that want to place bet on games. New Orleans Saints taking on the Cleveland Browns. You can bet on that game. All you have to do is go and use the promo code YouTube150 by downloading the BetUS app. You can sign up and get up to 150% on your first deposit, 125% on your second and third, up to $2,000. Once again, use that promo code YouTube150, going to the website or downloading the app. I'm going to take a few more, then we're going to go ahead and get up out of here, folks. We just, if you're watching this on a Tuesday, we just finished up the NFC South Roundtable. Shouts out to everybody over there that came over to talk a little bit about Week 10. We got a preview of Week 11 coming up later on in the week. So make sure you subscribe to that channel. Shouts out to James, Clay, and Smitty doing an outstanding job, man. Great, some of the best co-hosts right there, man. Really good guys and really know their football. A-Camp says, I know he was garbage. When he apologized for running up the score, teams don't care about running it up on us. So why would we apologize even in a game Rizzy got back in Arthur Smith's face? Yeah, I mean, dude just passive, man. That's just beta male like energy right there. That's just what it is. Like Dennis Allen, I'm just saying, Dennis Allen just did not he just didn't like resonate with the fan base. Like he just never endeared himself with the fan base ever. Like he never felt like he never felt like he was our guy. He never felt that way. He never felt that way. I was laughing because across all platforms at one time, like when I looked up, it had 283 people watching, 28.3. But anyway, he never really looked at himself like, or actually, he never like really seemed like he was the New Orleans Saints guy. Like he just never did. Like he never he just didn't have it. Just didn't have it. That's the best way I could put it. He just did not have it. He ain't have it. And it is what it is. I did my victory dance. I do after every Saints win when DA got fired. Best day of my life besides my upcoming wedding. Bye-bye, Dennis Allen. To the left. Tyra, well, congratulations on your up-and-coming wedding. It's an amazing feeling, when you find that special somebody. But it's also a very special feeling when Dennis Allen got fired. I promise you, man. My mom was laughing at me. She was like, man, you were glowing on your podcast. And I probably was, man. Like it was, man. Bro, this been a great week. Like you combine the fact of Dennis Allen gone, you got an interim coach that has some fire, and then on top of that, you go into a game where all the Atlanta Falcon fans that just thought that they were just gonna dance on your grave, and they just left disappointed, hurt, and sad with questions about their own football team. Oh man, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I already said it. The Saints don't have to win another football game for me. I think we all know what the New Orleans Saints are at this point. I think we all know, right? We know that they're not a good football team. They make mistakes. They made mistakes in the game versus Atlanta, and they're going to continue to make mistakes. They're going to play games where we're just like, man, they just shooting themselves in the foot. It's just what they are. But at the same time, the fact that I know that one of these victories that they got, the 3 victories that they have, came against the Atlanta Falcons by a score of 20-17. Beautiful. Beautiful. TJ, I don't make a good best man at a wedding, but I can make a good worst man. You did. I mean, look, Dennis Allen is the worst man to me. Worst head coach. Not human being, but worst head coach. They don't want smoke at Addison, ask Eli Apple. Yeah, man, look, Eli Apple, I ain't hear from him. I don't know where he at. Is he still playing football? I think last time I heard he was playing for the Dolphins, but I don't know. It's been a hot minute. But all in all, man, my final thoughts. I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here, man. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. My final thought is simple. It's going to take a few more games for the Riz to actually get some traction in this whole head coach and a future head coach named buzzing. I think that the New Orleans Saints still need to do their due diligence. I don't want any Sean Payton layovers. I mentioned that before. I think they just need to completely just wipe that away. Get it out of here. Start fresh and start new. You can't be afraid of change. I think that you really need to look at some of these coaches out here. I don't know if Ben Johnson, is interested. I don't know, but even if he's not, they got good head coaches that you find by, doing your due diligence. And if Darren Rizzi ends up inspiring a team and he ends up, grinding it out and, putting a good product together on the field, I mean, why not? I mean, give him a shot. But to me, he would have to win at least out of these 8 games that they are going to play with him as the head coach. The first game they played against Atlanta, that's 1 win. So you got 7 left. He got to win at least. He got to go 5-2 down the stretch in these next 7 games. To me, to make it feel comfortable. But thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Previous episodes available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM. Follow me on X at TJAYJones8. Also subscribe to this channel, youtube.com, search The State of the Saints podcast, the Gumbo Pot. You can search for that, Gumbo Pot Sports podcast. And also check out the NFC South Roundtable. Till next time, all I got to say is,
thank you for listening to my daddy's podcast. Please subscribe to our channel.
Hey, don't let these tears fool you. It's all dog around this mug. I'm good.